Picture this. The year is 46 before Christ. You are standing on the Via Sacra in Rome, the most famous street in the most powerful city on earth. Around you, 100,000 Romans are cheering. They are not cheering for you. They are cheering at you. You are 16 years old. Your name is Arsinoe. You are the daughter of Ptolemy XII and sister to Cleopatra. 3 weeks ago, you were a princess in Alexandria. Today, you are walking in chains through Rome in your father's triumph parade. Here is what you need to understand about Roman triumph ceremonies. When we see them in movies, we focus on the conquering general riding in his golden chariot. The crowds cheering. The glory of Rome. What we do not see is what happens after the parade ends. What the first is about to reveal is documented in letters from Roman senators, historical accounts from Plutarch and Tacitus, and archaeological evidence discovered in 2007 beneath the Mamertine prison in Rome. Evidence that historians initially refused to make public. Evidence that shows what happened to the daughters of conquered kings was not execution. It was something far more calculated. If you believe that the documented records of history's most systematic practices must be remembered, consider liking this video and subscribing. Your support unearths more accounts that show us who we were and who we are capable of being. Let me take you inside the actual system, not the sanitized version you learned in school. The documented reality. You are Arsinoe. Let us walk through what happens to you in the next 48 hours. The triumph parade lasts about 6 hours. You are marched through the forum, past temples, past cheering crowds. The entire time you are displayed as living proof of Rome's victory. But you are not alone. Walking behind you in the procession are 23 other daughters of conquered rulers, some as young as 12. The oldest is 19. All of you are headed to the same place. When the parade ends at the Temple of Jupiter, there is a ceremony. The conquering general, in this case Julius Caesar, makes offerings to the gods. The crowd celebrates. Then the daughters are led away. Think about what I am describing. This is not improvised. There is a ceremony for the general. There is a separate process for what happens to you. 2 different systems running simultaneously. You are taken to a facility beneath the Carcere Mamertino, the Mamertine prison. But you are not going to the prison itself. You are going to a section the Romans called the Tullianum Secundus, the second dungeon. This part was not discovered until 2007. Archaeologists from the American Institute of Roman Culture were conducting ground-penetrating radar surveys when they found it. An entire underground complex. Purpose-built chambers, ventilation systems, water channels, and documentation. Stone tablets recording every single royal daughter who passed through. Names, ages, kingdoms, dates of arrival, and dates of departure. Here is where the machine starts working. You are brought into the first chamber. It is not a cell. It is more like a receiving area. There are benches, washing facilities, attendants waiting. The attendants are efficient, professional. They are not soldiers. They are civilian workers. This is their job. They remove your chains. They instruct you to bathe. You are given clean clothing. Simple linen, but clean. Then you are registered. An official records your name, age, lineage. He asks about your education, your skills. About your education, your skills. Whether you are a virgin. He writes everything down on a wax tablet. This is not interrogation. It is intake processing. Think about the psychology here. You have just been paraded through Rome in chains. You are terrified. You expect torture, execution, horror. Instead, you get bathwater and bureaucracy. That is the genius of the system. The kindness is more disorienting than cruelty would be. After registration, you are taken to a private chamber. Stone walls, a bed with actual linens, a small window near the ceiling that lets in light. You are told to rest. Food is brought. Simple but decent bread, cheese, watered wine. You are confused. This is not what you expected. Maybe you think there has been a mistake. Maybe Caesar will show mercy. Maybe you will be ransomed back to your family. You are wrong. Here is what you do not know. While you are resting, the registration information is being processed upstairs. Your details are being added to a list that has been circulating through Rome for the past 3 days. A list that certain Roman citizens have been studying carefully. The list is called the Captivae Regales, Royal Captives, and it is available for review by any Roman citizen of sufficient status who wants to participate in what comes next. Let me explain what participate means. In 2007, when archaeologists found the Tullianum Secundus, they also found something else, an adjacent building, connected by underground passage. A building that historical records identified as a thermae, a bathhouse. But it was not a normal bathhouse. Analysis of the architecture revealed specific features: private chambers, locked doors, ventilation systems designed to prevent sound from traveling, and most tellingly, records rooms filled with transaction documentation. Dr. Cristina Giovanna, who led the archaeological analysis, published her findings in the Journal of Roman Studies. Her conclusion was careful, diplomatic, academic, but reading between the lines, the implication was clear. This was not a bathhouse. It was a specialized facility for a specific purpose. The purpose was stated explicitly in several discovered documents. One tablet, dated to 61 before Christ, includes this phrase: "For the pleasure of Roman citizens and the humiliation of Rome's enemies, the daughters of conquered kings are made available according to traditional rites of conquest." Made available. Think about those 2 words. Not executed. Not enslaved in the traditional sense. Made available. Here's how the system worked. This is documented in letters from Marcus Tullius Cicero, who expressed moral objections to the practice in private correspondence while publicly remaining silent. After the royal daughters were processed and registered, their information was made available to patrician-class Roman citizens, military veterans above a certain rank, senators, wealthy merchants, i.e. These men could request private time with specific captives. The requests were processed through official channels. Forms were submitted. Times were scheduled. Payments were made to the state treasury. Everything was documented. Names, dates, duration, fees collected. The Roman Empire turned the daughters of conquered kings into a revenue stream. But here's what makes this especially disturbing. It was not random assault. It was systematic, regulated, bureaucratic. There were rules, documented rules. No permanent physical harm, no scarring, no injuries that would be visible. Why? Because these women had another purpose beyond this immediate usage. They were destined for the slave markets. Think about the calculation here. A virgin princess from a conquered kingdom could fetch enormous prices at auction. But once she had been through the availability system for several weeks, her value would decrease. So the rules protected the merchandise. Psychological damage was acceptable, expected even. But physical damage reduced resale value. This was not cruelty. This was economics. Let me take you back to Arsino. You are 16. You are in your chamber. You have eaten. You are trying to understand what is happening. Then the door opens. A man enters. He is Roman. Well dressed. Probably in his 40s. He does not speak your language and you do not speak his. He does not need to speak. What happens next I am not going to detail. You can imagine it, but what you might not imagine is the aftermath. After he leaves, attendants return. They bring more bath water. They check you for injuries, if there are any. A physician is called, not for your comfort, for quality control. Then you are returned to your chamber. And the next day, it happens again. Different man, same process. According to the documentation found in the Tullianum Secundus, The average duration of this availability period was between 2 and 6 weeks, depending on how quickly suitable buyers could be found for permanent sale. During that time, each royal captive would typically receive between 12 and 30 visits, 12 to 30 different Roman citizens, each session documented, each fee collected. The stone tablets record 127 different royal daughters who passed through this system between 146 before Christ and 14 in the year of our Lord. That's 160 years of documented operations. 127 princesses, daughters of kings from Carthage, Gaul, Germania, Britain, Greece, Egypt, Syria, Judea. Their names are still there, carved in stone, in storage beneath the modern city of Rome. Here's what makes me sick about this. The Romans didn't consider this barbaric. They considered it tradition. It was called jus praedae, the right of plunder. It was considered one of the legitimate spoils of military victory. Tacitus refers to it casually in his histories. Pliny mentions it in passing. It was so normalized that it didn't even warrant extensive commentary. Only Cicero, in private letters to his friend Atticus, expressed discomfort. The daughters of kings are paraded as beasts, then treated as such. I cannot reconcile this with our claims to civilization, yet to speak against it publicly would be to invite censure. Even the moral objector knew to stay silent. If this moment in history doesn't move you to understand how power perpetuates itself, you're missing the lesson that was written in stone beneath Rome. Now let's talk about what happened after the availability period ended. You're Arsinoe. You've survived 6 weeks in the Tullianum Secundus. You've endured what you've endured. The attendants tell you you're being moved. You're taken to the Forum Boarium, the cattle market. But there's a specialized section, a section for human merchandise of particular value. This is where conquered royalty is sold. The auction is public. Buyers inspect you like livestock. They check your teeth, your posture. They ask questions through interpreters about your education, your skills. You are sold to the highest bidder. If you are lucky, you are purchased by a wealthy household that wants the prestige of owning conquered royalty. You will spend the rest of your life as a domestic slave serving at banquets, weaving, attending to the household's women. If you are unlucky, you are purchased by someone who runs a brothel. You will spend years servicing Roman citizens until age or illness makes you valueless. Either way, you are erased. Your royal bloodline ends with you. Any children you might have will be born into slavery, with no knowledge of their heritage. That is the point. That is the entire purpose of the system. Rome did not just want to defeat its enemies. Rome wanted to erase them completely. Bloodlines, heritage, dignity, all of it systematically dismantled. The sons of conquered kings were usually executed publicly. Quick, clean, symbolic. But the daughters were unmade slowly, methodically, in ways designed to ensure that their royal blood produced nothing but slaves. Total victory. Here is what happened to Arsinoe specifically. We know because Julius Caesar's correspondence survived. He initially intended to execute her publicly, but his advisors counseled against it. Too sympathetic. She was young, beautiful, and her public appearance in the triumph parade had generated unexpected sympathy among some Romans. So Caesar made a different choice. He exiled her to the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus. Under temple protection, she could not be touched. She lived there for 4 years. Then, in 41 before Christ, Mark Antony, at Cleopatra's request, ordered her execution. She was 20 years old. Even exile could not save her. The machinery of erasure had long reached, but Arsinoe was unusual. She had powerful enemies who wanted her specifically dead. Most conquered royal daughters were not important enough for that. They just disappeared into the slave system. No execution, no drama, just systematic erasure. In 2019, genetic analysis was performed on remains found in mass graves near ancient Roman slave quarters. The study, published in Nature, identified several individuals with genetic markers consistent with North African, Germanic, and Eastern Mediterranean royal lineages. Royal blood mixed with common bones in unmarked graves. That is where they ended up. Now we have to confront something uncomfortable. How widespread was this practice? The tablets from Tullianum Secundus document 127 women over 160 years. But that is just one facility in Rome. The same archaeological team found evidence of similar structures in Antioch, Alexandria, and Carthage, after it was rebuilt as a Roman city. If each facility processed similar numbers, we are potentially talking about 500 to 600 royal daughters who passed through this system during the Roman Republic and early Empire period. 500 daughters of kings, each one processed, documented, made available, auctioned, harassed. Think about the psychological impact on conquered peoples. You are a Celtic king. Rome is at your borders. You know what happens if you lose. You know what happens to your daughters specifically. Do you resist? Do you fight knowing that defeat means your bloodline suffers this particular fate? Or do you surrender? Do you bend the knee preemptively? That is the genius of the system. It was not just punishment. It was deterrence. It was a machine designed to break the will to resist before the fighting even started. And it worked. Roman expansion was remarkably efficient compared to other empires. Fewer prolonged resistances. Fewer guerrilla campaigns. More capitulation. Some historians attribute this to Roman military superiority. Superior tactics. Superior discipline. But the first think there is another factor. Terror. Specifically, systematized terror that targeted the daughters of leadership. When the cost of resistance includes watching your daughters paraded through Rome and then systematically erased, surrender becomes rational. Here is what haunts me about this. The Romans kept records of everything: aqueduct maintenance, grain shipments, road construction. And this, they kept records of this. Someone's job was to maintain those tablets, to record the names, to track the fees collected, to ensure the system ran efficiently. Some administrator went to work each day and updated the captive regales list, checked off names as women were sold, calculated revenue, then went home to his family, kissed his daughters, complained about his workload. The machinery of erasure runs on ordinary people doing ordinary administrative tasks. In the Roman Forum today, there is a plaque commemorating Julius Caesar's triumph in 46 before Christ. It lists his military achievements, the territories conquered, the glory of Roman. It does not mention Asino. It does not mention the 23 other royal daughters who walked in chains that day. They have been erased twice, once by the system that processed them, once by the history that forgot them. Here is the question that keeps me awake. How many other systems like this existed in ancient civilizations? How many other facilities are still buried, waiting to be discovered? How much systematic horror are we walking over every day in ancient cities, never knowing it is there? The Tullianum Secundus was found by accident in 2007. It was not even what the archaeologists were looking for. They were studying the Mamertine prison above it. What else is down there? What else did ancient civilizations build, use for centuries, then forget about? What other stone tablets are waiting in the dark with names carved into them? Here's what I think we are obligated to do. We are obligated to remember, not because it is pleasant, not because it makes us feel good about human history, but because the alternative is complicity. Those 127 names on the tablets deserved better than erasure. They deserved better than being revenue line items in Roman treasury records. The absolute least we can do is remember they existed. Remember they were people. Remember they were daughters who had lives before they became merchandise. In 2020, a memorial was proposed for the archaeological site, a small plaque with the names from the tablets. The proposal was rejected. Too disturbing for tourists. Might upset visitors. So the names remain in storage, in academic catalogs, in scholarly journals that most people will never read. Still erased, still silent. If this revealed something you have never heard before, Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we are going to keep uncovering the history they tried to bury. Drop a comment with your thoughts and I will see you in the next investigation. The tablets are still in Rome, in climate-controlled storage beneath the city. You cannot visit them. They are not on display, but they are there. 127 names, 127 ages, 127 kingdoms, and detailed records of everything that happened to each one. The Romans were very thorough. They documented everything except mercy.